On February 28, 2026, Claude, an AI chatbot most people hadn't heard of 6 months ago, overtook ChatGPT as the #1 downloaded app in America. ChatGPT had 900 million weekly users, but it dropped to #2 for the first time. Millions of people were canceling their subscriptions, not over features, not over price, over what happened when the Pentagon gave an AI company an ultimatum, got told no, and a different company said yes within hours. This story involves a $200 million military contract, a classified AI system linked to a midnight raid on a foreign president, a $25 million political donation, and the first time the US government labeled an American tech company a supply chain risk to national security. This designation was previously reserved for companies from foreign adversaries, and all of this happened over 2 restrictions in a contract. How did an AI chatbot end up on classified military networks? And what made the Pentagon threaten to destroy the company that put it there? And who gets to decide what the most powerful AI in the world does? The company that built it, the government, or you? That question got answered 3 different ways in a single week. Here's what happened. If you want deep dives like this on the real stories shaping AI, hit subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. In July 2025, Anthropic signed a $200 million contract to put Claude on the Pentagon's classified military networks, the first frontier AI model approved for classified government systems. But 6 months later, the Pentagon threatened to destroy the company. What went wrong? In 2021, Dario Amodei and his sister Daniela left OpenAI. He was VP of Research, Daniela ran safety and policy, and they walked away because they believed OpenAI wasn't taking safety seriously enough. They founded Anthropic with one premise: build the most capable AI and make it the safest. And here's what nobody expected. This safety-first company became the first AI firm to put its technology on classified government networks. Through a partnership with Palantir, Claude was running inside the Pentagon's most sensitive systems: intelligence analysis, operational planning, cyber operations, and then it went further. On January 3rd, 2026, Operation Absolute Resolve, US Delta Force captured Venezuelan President Maduro in a midnight raid involving 150 plus aircraft. Cyber attacks blacked out the city. Delta Force fast-roped into the military compound, and the president was extracted by helicopter. No American lives were lost. In February, Axios and France 24 reported that Claude had been integrated into Palantir's tech package during the operation. Analyzing satellite images, processing intelligence, Anthropic declined to confirm specifics, but they didn't deny the classified deployment. But there were 2 lines Anthropic refused to cross. Number 1, no mass domestic surveillance of Americans, and number 2, no autonomous weapons. The Pentagon wanted both lines erased. Anthropic's Claude was inside the Pentagon's most classified systems. It had helped plan a military operation. It was working. But Anthropic had drawn 2 lines they refused to cross, and the Pentagon was about to demand they erase both. Dario Amodei sat across from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth in late February 2026. Hegseth told him, "Give us unrestricted access to Claude or we end this." Amodei said no. To understand why this blew up, you need to hear both sides. Not the tweets, not the headlines, the arguments. First, Anthropic. On domestic surveillance, Amodei wrote an essay in January 2026. His concern isn't abstract, it's specific. He's warning about a government using AI to identify and crush political opposition before it organizes. In his own words, a powerful AI looking across billions of conversations from millions of people could gauge public sentiment, detect pockets of disloyalty forming, and stamp them out before they grow. Think about what he's saying. Not surveillance to catch criminals, surveillance to detect disloyalty, to find people organizing against the government and shut them down before they gain momentum. And here's the part most people miss. Most of this is legal right now, today. Amodei points out it would likely not be uncommon unconstitutional for the US government to conduct massively scaled recordings of all public conversations. But the law hasn't caught up. All lawful purposes sounds reasonable until you realize how few laws exist to stop this. On autonomous weapons, Anthropic isn't saying never. Their statement says autonomous weapons may prove critical for our national defense. They offered the Pentagon a research partnership to improve reliability, but the Pentagon refused. Anthropic's argument is that frontier AI systems aren't reliable enough yet. It's not a moral objection, it's a reliability and timing one. It's not never, it's not yet. In Amadei's CBS interview, he says, "We're patriotic Americans. Disagreeing with the governments is the most American thing in the world." Now here's the Pentagon side, and it's a stronger argument than most news coverage makes it sound. Federal law already bans mass surveillance without a warrant. Military rules already limit how autonomous weapons get used. So the Pentagon's position, if the law already covers this, Anthropic's restrictions don't add protection. They add a private veto over national security decisions. No other defense contractor gets to pick which missions their product supports. Lockheed Martin doesn't approve each F-35 flight. During negotiations, a senior official posed a test. Would Anthropic let Claude help shoot down a nuclear missile headed for the US? Both sides gave starkly different accounts, quote unquote, of what happened. Anthropic called the Pentagon's version patently false, but the Pentagon walked away believing Anthropic wouldn't give a straight answer. The Pentagon also offered compromises: write surveillance bans into the contract, acknowledge existing weapons rules, invite Anthropic onto the AI ethics board. But Anthropic's response was that the revised language made virtually no progress on preventing Claude's use for mass surveillance, with legalese allowing those safeguards to be disregarded at will. Two readings of the same compromise. Palmer Luckey, founder of Enduro, made the case nobody else is saying. Anthropic's red lines sound simple, but they're full of moral minefields. Like, what counts as autonomous? What's defensive versus offensive? What about if you're defending an asset during an offensive action? He pointed out that the military has operated fully autonomous weapons for decades. For example, sea mines. For example, missile systems on every US destroyer. The question isn't whether autonomous weapons should exist, they already exist. It's who decides the oversight framework. So his conclusion is, you have to believe the American experiment is still ongoing, that our imperfect constitutional republic is still good enough to run a country without outsourcing the real levers of power to billionaires and corpos. So who's right? Here's how I think about it. Giving unrestricted AI access to the military is like handing someone the master key to every door in a building and trusting they'll only open the ones you're comfortable with. Anthropic wanted to keep certain doors physically locked, but the Pentagon wanted the master key with a promise. However, the government's ability to choose which vendors to work with is democratic function. What's not democratic is the government compelling a certain vendor under threat of prosecution to comply. So both sides are making a reasonable case, but the disagreement isn't about whether safeguards should exist. It's about who gets to set them. And if a private company refuses, the government can easily work with a different vendor. But why are they going that extra step to label Anthropic as a threat to national security just because they didn't comply? If this is already making you think differently about the AI tools you use every day, hit like, drop a comment. Who do you think should decide what AI does? The company, the government, or you? I want to hear both sides. Now, Anthropic wouldn't budge, the Pentagon wouldn't budge, so on February 27, 2026, both sides made moves they won't undo. Hegseth set a Friday deadline, 5 p.m. Eastern, accept all lawful purposes as the language in the contract, or face consequences. Thursday night, Anthropic CEO Amadei published his response. He said, "We cannot in good conscience accede to their request. No amount of intimidation will change our position." President Trump posted from the White House account on X, calling Anthropic left-wing nutjobs, making a disastrous mistake, trying to strong-arm the Department of War. Then he said said, "I am directing every federal agency to immediately cease all use of Anthropic's technology. We don't need it. We don't want it." And now there's a 6-month phase out of all Anthropic technology from the government. And President Trump says, "I will use the full power of the presidency to make them comply, with major civil and criminal consequences to follow." Then came 3 actions. Number 1, the contract was canceled, $200 million gone. Number 2, supply chain risk, a label normally saved for foreign enemies, never used against an American company ever. A former White House AI advisor called it attempted corporate murder. And number 3, the Defense Production Act was invoked. The DPA was used for COVID vaccines, semiconductor chips, and critical minerals. It's an active national security tool, but using it to compel an American company to change safety features in its own software, that has never happened. A national security fellow captured the paradox precisely. It's this funny mix where they're both such a risk they need to be kicked out of all systems, and so essential they need to be compelled to be part of the system no matter what. Cancel the contract, fine, that's the government's right, but invoke wartime powers and threaten criminal charges over guardrails, that's not choosing a different vendor. That's sending a message to every AI company in America: don't say no. Now, the AI community is split. Elon Musk, founder of XAI, accepted the Pentagon's terms. He tweeted, "Anthropic hates Western civilization." A senior Pentagon official called Amade a liar with a god complex. On the other side, Ilya, co-founder of OpenAI, who had left to start his own safety startup, said it's extremely good that Anthropic has not backed down. Millions of views on that tweet. A former OpenAI safety researcher posted a one-liner that went viral. The US government announced they're looking for a new supplier for mass domestic surveillance, and the Pentagon enforced its answer to who decides. Anthropic was out, but within hours, another AI company stepped in with a very different answer. And it's the company millions of people are now abandoning. Friday evening, February 27th, hours after Trump banned Anthropic, Sam Altman posted on X, "Tonight, we reached an agreement with the Department of War to deploy our models in their classified network." Keep in mind, OpenAI 2 years ago explicitly banned military and warfare in its usage policy, and now they've just accepted a classified military contract. So how did this happen? Let's roll back to January 10, 2024. OpenAI quietly removes military and warfare from banned use cases. No announcement. The Intercept reported it. Now, September 2025, OpenAI President Greg Brockman and his wife each donate $12.5 million to MAGA Inc., Trump's primary super PAC, $25 million combined. Nearly a quarter of MAGA Inc.'s $102 million raised in the second half of 2025. Brockman's largest political donation before this was only $2,700 to Hillary Clinton in 2016. And what happened next on Twitter is that users added a community note to Sam Altman's announcement, saying government officials have contradicted Sam's claim, saying OpenAI will allow the Department of War to use their models for all lawful purposes. This could allow for the same use cases Anthropic refused: mass domestic surveillance and autonomous weapons. In a Saturday Ask Me Anything with millions of views, someone asked the key question: if your contract says all lawful purposes and your safety system prevents a lawful purpose, you're in breach of contract. So either your safety technology stack has no real way to be enforced, or you're setting up a future contract dispute with the Pentagon. Sam Altman's reply was pretty ambiguous. He said, "We get to decide what systems to build. We can and will build a lot of protections into that system." So what's the difference between the two deals? On the surface, Sam Altman's trying to say they're identical. Both companies are saying no mass domestic surveillance, no autonomous weapons, no social credit systems, but the enforcement seems completely different. Sam Altman frames OpenAI's safeguards as safety principles, guidelines. When they conflict with a competing interest like national security, one gives. Anthropics are red lines, hard limits written into the contract. No bending, no way around it. But when you dive into the specifics, OpenAI's published agreement says intelligence activities will comply with Executive Order 12333. That sounds fine, but Executive Order 12333 is a Reagan-era order from 1981 that lets the NSA collect intelligence outside the US with almost no judicial oversight. So when the NSA taps into fiber optic cables abroad, Americans' emails, calls, and texts that route through foreign servers can get swept up as incidental collection. And that's explicitly legal under this executive order. No court order is needed. The Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board called this executive order potentially the most intrusive of the nation's surveillance activities. This means the OpenAI deal definitely allows for mass domestic surveillance. Now, OpenAI's response is how the system built matters more than what the contract says, but we're very fuzzy on those details. They said they're limiting access to the cloud API, but the legal authority in the contract already allows collecting Americans' data. So the safeguards are only as strong as the existing law, and the existing law has loopholes. That's exactly the gap Anthropic was trying to close with contractual red lines. Anthropic wants to keep those use cases locked down, no loopholes, whereas OpenAI handed over the master key and is trusting the military's promise to be responsible with this technology. Obviously, the backlash was immediate. On Reddit, people are saying, "You're now training a war machine. Let's see proof of cancellation." Thousands and thousands of upvotes in a day. Katy Perry publicly canceled ChatGPT and switched to Claude. Now we have 3 different answers to the question, who decides? The Pentagon says the government, OpenAI says trust the company and the law, millions of people said we decide, we're leaving, we're canceling ChatGPT, but OpenAI still has hundreds of millions of users. So did any of it matter? Well, the numbers tell a story nobody expected. Here's what the numbers say. Claude jumped from outside the top 100 in January to number 1 on the App Store by February 28th. Free users up 60%. Paid subscribers doubled. ChatGPT's US mobile market share had already dropped from 69% in January 2025 to 45% by January 2026, before this whole Pentagon drama even started. And then something nobody expected. Hundreds of Google and OpenAI employees banding together, even though they are Anthropic's direct competitors. They signed an open letter supporting Anthropic's position. In their not divided letter, they say the Pentagon is trying to create division within each company by instilling fear that the other will concede. That strategy only works if none of us know where the others stand. Google's chief scientist posted opposing mass surveillance, and a retired Air Force general who ran Project Maven at Google said Claude's red lines were reasonable. Senator Ed Markey formally demanded congressional action to reverse the supply chain designation. So is this the tech industry finally holding the line? I want to be optimistic, but here's the pattern. 2018, Google builds AI for Pentagon drone footage analysis, Project Maven. 4,000 employees sign that petition. A dozen resign. Google drops the contract and releases ethical AI principles pledging no weapons or surveillance tech. Fast forward to February 2025, Google quietly lifts the military AI ban. Now, January 2024, OpenAI removes military and warfare from banned uses. 2 years later, the Pentagon deal. Okay, let's go back to 2019. Microsoft wins a $21.9 billion Army contract for augmented reality headsets. Employees protest, but Microsoft proceeds anyway. Every tech company setting an ethical boundary on military AI sees it tested, weakened, or abandoned. Google lasted 7 years, OpenAI lasted 2, and it's not only military contracts. Google's original slogan was "Don't be evil," and they dropped it. OpenAI dropped the word safety from their mission statement. xAI shut down their entire safety team, and even Anthropic isn't clean. The same week they drew red lines with the Pentagon, they quietly updated their responsible scaling policy, removing the promise to stop building more powerful AI if safety couldn't keep up. They replaced hard commitments with goals they don't have to follow. Now, all 4 of these companies talk about safety. but none of them supports binding safety regulation like we have in other industries. And all 4 have now broken their own promises. Watch which lines a company moves and which ones it doesn't. It tells you what they really believe. As of March 1st, 2026, Anthropic is designated a supply chain risk, facing 6-month federal phase-out and vowing to challenge this in court. OpenAI and xAI are going to be run on classified military networks, while Google is still negotiating. Claude is #1 on the App Store, QuitGPT is now a viral trend, and the Pentagon has AI on classified systems for the first time at scale. If you take 3 things from this video, make it these. #1, watch the lines that move, not the ones that hold. Google's no military AI lasted 7 years, OpenAI's lasted 2, Anthropic held the line with the Pentagon the same week it moved its own internal safety commitments. Every company's ethical boundary gets tested, and the ones that survive tell you what they actually believe. #2, all lawful purposes is a loophole, not a safeguard. The law hasn't caught up to what AI makes possible. Executive Order 12333 lets the NSA collect Americans' data through foreign servers. No court order needed. Safety principles bend when they hit national security, but red lines in a contract won't. And that's why Anthropic was so firm in its position. Lesson #3, your $20 a month is a political decision now. Switching AI tools takes 5 minutes. Claude went from outside the top 100 to #1 in the App Store in a matter of weeks. You can't vote on specific Pentagon AI policy, but you can vote on which company gets your money every single month. So here's the question I want you sitting with. Who should decide what AI does? Anthropic says the company that built it should draw the lines because they're intimately aware of what it's capable of and what it's not capable of. The Pentagon says democratic institutions should. OpenAI says follow the law and trust the engineering. All 3 have a point. All 3 have blind spots. The company that wanted guardrails with its Pentagon contract quietly moved its own internal safety red lines that same week. And the government demanding our trust is the same government running mass NSA surveillance. And the company saying trust the law accepted a deal where the law has a loophole for mass domestic surveillance through an executive order. Nobody's hands are clean, so who do you trust? Tell me in the comments, and if this video changed how you think about the AI tools you use every day, hit like, hit the subscribe bell so you don't miss the next one.